Hi guys, how are you? It's Garabo. I hope you are good. Today is Saturday of some month, 1st of July. And I've got a heavy message to deliver, but I guess all my messages are heavy. Makeup that I'm wearing right now, courtesy of I think CapCut or Beauty Plus, I don't know, whatever. I'm just putting it out there that I'm not really wearing makeup. It's an app. So just in case you were wondering, go check out one of my series where I was talking about how God delivered me. It's like a 45 part. I explain makeup applications and everything there to help my work along. Yeah. Let's get straight into the message. My heart is flat. Okay. I'm really just going through it right now, but whatever it is that I'm going through, I'm going to get delivered in a sad way. But frankly, I would be lying if I said I was broken over what God has shown me is about to happen, because frankly, there is grander weight to be allotted to reprieve or relief than to the sorrow of someone dying and going to hell. Yes, that's what's about to happen right now. So about 3 years ago, I once watched, maybe two, goodness, three could be a bit of an exaggeration. I was watching a show, a television show on DSTV. It was a crime, one of those crime channels, where they solved a mystery where somebody was just going through too much or whatever, and the situation that they were in was eventually eradicated. Yeah, no, it was about stalking, right? Where this one woman was being stalked by a man that basically made her life impossible to live. She met this man online, and her life, and this man was also living in Asia, like a completely different continent. She was American. And the way that story ended, I had like a dream or a vision. I can't know, was it a dream? It could be a vision, right? Because like when you just come out of bed and like you have a very active, you're like somewhere in the middle of sleep mode and awake mode, and your dream sort of kind of atmosphere is still very actively doing its thing. Yeah, it was there. I had such a dream as that, or a vision as that, basically telling me the days of your stalker are coming to an end. And going forward, any new man that decides that they're gonna take over the reins from your last stalker, I'm going to finish them as quickly as they so much as click on your content. They're not gonna get very far. And the way that I'm gonna finish them is by extinction, annihilation, literally death. So let's just get straight into this message. And I would like for you guys to listen from the beginning to the end instead of just kind of hopping on right ahead, since I've already given you the spoiler as to how this is going to end. This, let me tell you firstly, the true crime story describing this lady in the US, right? She was a single woman and she was happy to date online, like meet a man basically on the internet. She had like a whole thriving life with friends and family, living in a state where she was closest to them all. And since she was having a hard time meeting a man out there in the wild, she decided, hey, let me try out online dating. And lo and behold, that's what she did. Had a few hits and misses here and there. Went on a couple of dates, didn't work out. And then ultimately she met a man in Asia. He was in Asia, in China to be exact. And initially they hit it off. And this was because she found him refreshing, his viewpoint was different from American men, etc. And they were chatting it up a storm, and all was good and well. Well, lo and behold, a couple of weeks down the line from that, they were planning on meeting for real. And so because they were planning on one day actually meeting, she made the gigantic mistake of sharing her address with this man, because they had spoken for some months and she had grown to trust him enough to, she even imagined that this was it, They had conversations along the lines of he was prepared to move over to the US, if at all she was cool with it, because she wanted him to rather come to the US instead of her go to Asia. for reasons, I guess, that was between them two. She mistakenly gave him her address. This man was good initially, all right, and then he started to be kind of controlling and demanding, pretty much telling this woman what, you know, when a person speaks along the lines of, when we're together, when we're finally together, this is how things are gonna go. This is how I like my wife to be. This is what I prefer. And it became clearer and clearer as, I guess, the conversations progressed, that this man wanted this young career woman to basically become a housewife, kind of domesticated. You know, initially, you know, he used to say things like, if you were my wife, you wouldn't have to work at all. And she would brush it off and stuff. You know what I mean? As, yeah, but I am working and I like my career. I studied, you know, and I like what I do. But then it got to a point where he started to kind of throw her an ultimatum, where he was like, look, I make a lot of money. I'm in the tech industry. I am highly sought after, even by the American market. And I'm happy to take care of us and the children that we're gonna have. I cannot be with a woman that doesn't want to stay at home. So it went from being it would be great if you stayed at home, if you were my woman, you wouldn't have to work, to there's no way out. At this stage, they were already exchanging I love yous. They were basically planning to one day in the future get married. She was about to prepare to introduce him to her family members. He was going to make a trip to the US to meet them, and she was going to make a trip to China to meet them on his side. And it was at this juncture when he started to speak about how it is that this is not an option, you're going to have to stay at home. Then she was like, look, this is a deal breaker because, one, I don't want a man rocking up and just telling me to, like, you know, put in a box and seal it tightly, my education, my career, my aspirations. I'm sorry if that's what you want, but I'm not the woman for you. It got to a point where she said that. She was like, no, I can't take that ultimatum. And he then started to get aggressive and basically threatened to dump her. Like, he was so convinced that she was beside herself with adoration for him, that when he then threatened to walk out, pull out, that she would run to him on some, okay. Like, you know, when you get that arrogant. Yeah, he got arrogant. And in his arrogance was thrown off his chair in surprise. When she was like, look, it's been great, but turns out this is not what I was looking for. No, I can't take this, and the way that you're hammering it down tells me that even if you were to temporarily accept my views and my comfort levels, you will at some point raise this again, and it's gonna annoy me again. So I'm sorry, but this is like, no, we're not gonna, like, you threatened to dump me. If I don't want to do this, dump me. If I don't want to do this, well, I'm not threatening. This is it. It's over. You're gonna have to find yourself another woman that is happy with your parameters. Conversation ended there, and she thought that this dude was sort of he had taken it, you know, the breakup. Next thing, this woman is at work. Do you understand? And she gets called to the reception to receive like something, like some flowers or what, like just a package. She gets downstairs, and lo and behold, it's a bunch of flowers from this guy, right? Some packet, like some gift, all right? And with this gift, this woman is like, okay, look, I did tell him where I work. I also told him where I live, so maybe he made an arrangement all the way in Asia where he's at, contacted an American company to have flowers delivered to my office. She contacted him and she was like, I got the flowers, thank you, but my mind is made up. So I think it's best if you don't try to come back because you are too adamant on the matter. We're not going to do this. This guy then responded by saying, what do you mean we're not going to do this? I'm just around the corner. I'm living in a hotel. I came to talk over matters. Those flowers that I delivered, I could have dropped them off myself, but I didn't want to alarm you. That's when she got, like, you know, goosebumps. And her hair sort of kind of raised all over her head, all over her body on some, this guy came to America. You know, some people might want to romanticize that, but it scared her because at this point it was over, right? That's when she then said to him, look, leave me alone. I didn't approve for you to come here and meet me and see me. I like, you're gonna go back home. We're not doing this. I don't want this. My mind is made up. And she thought that at this stage, this guy would perhaps get the point. But then he started to pretty much tell her, I'm gonna come and see you where you stay. It was when he was starting to say stuff like this that she then decided to go to the police on some, I have a stalker and he won't leave me alone. All the police did was give her a restraining order, but restraining order to a man, only using his name and surname. A man of which was a citizen of another country and was temporarily in the nation. The police just brushed it off as, besides, he's gonna go back to China. And here it is that this woman is sitting with essentially a worthless restraining order. And she wanted the police to guard her, protect her, something. Go to him and tell him, dude, leave her alone. But no, because he had not laid his hands on her, because he had not done anything to basically suggest that this woman is in danger, all that they gave her was this little fluffy restraining order. Lo and behold, this woman started getting packages and gifts and what have you literally at her doorstep, dropped off. Like when she gets home, it's there sitting on the, remember I told you guys that this woman had given him her address, sitting on the doorstep would be like teddy bears, letters, multiple missed calls she would get from this guy, multiple emails that were unresponded to. Long story short, I don't want this to be very just long winding. Ultimately, this woman had to move from the state that she was living because the police could do absolutely nothing for her, especially given that this guy was a Chinese citizen. She had to move house, change, like she basically lost everything. She had to quit her job. She had to ship over to another state altogether. She had to sever contact with her family members lest he should get to her through them because he was stalking her that badly. And one day this woman, when she was just living a brand spanking new, another thing about her is that she didn't only have a regular 9-to-5 job, but she was a musician, a singer. She had some kind of a creative career in theater, not TV or whatever. She was an actress or a musician in theater. He would drop off or deliver flowers, pretty much Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard, before her production or after a production, saying, I enjoyed your singing, I enjoyed your show, you looked really beautiful. And she would freak out on something he was here. Her creative job was in the state that she was living in, and she was not so famous and so popular that she could just get another job in another state. She had to basically drop, abandon, ditch completely her singing component, her singing career. She had to drop it, get a 9-to-5 in another state, and just hunker down, live in a hunkered down state. In this state, despite changing email addresses, despite changing contact numbers and everything, he always managed to find her. Remember, this dude used to work in tech, so he was able to find her wherever she was, and she could not understand how in the world he was able to get her new address, not address, sorry, but how that too ultimately is coming, how he was able to get her new phone number, how he was able to get her new email address to successfully actually contact her via email. All along, this guy had pretty much, he had not shown himself in this woman's face. He had only dropped off gifts at doors and whatnot, freaked her out, wrote her letters. Never did he show himself in his own personal capacity. Lo and behold, now that she's living in a new state, having hunkered down, having lost her music career, and she's all hidden, she keeps on changing numbers and whatnot. One day this guy, literally as she is driving in to her new house in a new state. Oh, this happened over, mind you, also a couple of years, alright? So this dude was not just stalking this woman for a couple of months. It lasted maybe 4 years, the whole thing, and this woman could get no help. She went to the police, did everything, and her life had basically been stopped now. Neutralized, shattered, there was nothing that she could do. Here it is now that she was living in a new state, and this guy, one day, what is this? She was coming back home, pulling into her driveway. All right, and as she was, yeah, guys, you know, the story of this woman is just like on another level. As she is pulling into her driveway, getting out of her car, taking out perhaps her bag, her coat, and whatnot, she gets touched by someone on her shoulder. And this woman is already living very fretfully, very fearfully, and she hops, she screams, like yell, like whoa, jumps in an alarmed state. And when she looks behind her, it's this guy. Remember, they'd communicated with each other before she knows what he looks like. Online, they were, you know, maybe perhaps this happened so long ago that I don't think it was video calling, but like photos and everything were sent, right? Yeah, here it is that this dude is right there behind her on some I love you, let's talk. We can negotiate the terms of us getting married. Why are you overreacting? This is 4 years down the line. This woman, of course, then screams. And there is like a whole brawl between her and this man. And because of her screaming and her panicking and all that jazz, her neighbors overhear this whole thing and call the police. Right? I don't know how long it took, but I think there was like a patrol car just in the neighborhood that was already sort of kind of in that general area. Because I think the neighbors reported a domestic disturbance. They drove into this environment, right? They went to her like really quickly. And this dude, at this point, when the police were now basically, you know, surrounding the area, pulled out, I don't remember if it was a gun or a knife, some kind of a weapon. 1 minute, guys. Ish, I see this cat. You guys know my living conditions are really terrible. This guy pulled out some kind of a weapon. Can't remember, based on watching the show, if the weapon in question was a gun or a knife, but it became visible to the police. And I believe he was trying to like hold her hostage or something, and panicking and what have you. The one policeman then, upon identifying this weapon in this man's hands, and being, another thing, when the police were there and they were having like a whole discussion, and the police were like, whoa, what's going on, ma'am, sir, we're about to break up a domestic disturbance, the neighbors are complaining. I believe this woman then started saying, this guy has been stalking me for years, and he's not even an American, and he's been following me, and now he's in my yard. I'm scared for my life. And I believe this is when this man started to take out a weapon or something on some, we're gonna die together. You and I are going to die together in this. I am going to shoot or stab myself, following which I'm going to stab you. No, you, then me. Basically a murder-suicide, right? And it was at the point of drawing this weapon that one of the police officers basically like shot him dead, like right there. Took out his weapon and shot this man before he could put this woman in such a position so as to make it difficult for them to get him. You know, like when they hold you up and the guy's behind you, before he could even get to the point where he's behind her and holding a gun to her head or whatever, this police officer, I guess, made what do you call it, like an impulsive, not impulsive, but you know, reflex call, like just he on instinct, like really sharp, very on his feet, boo, shot this dude and he died, like, yeah, right there. And this was the end of this woman's drama. This was the end of her trauma, the end of a man stalking her. He died, right? And that was the only way out, because no amount of asking the police for help, telling the family, moving states worked, because the obsession of a stalker and the flaccid and fluffy laws of countries pertaining stalking are such that a lot of women who get stalked by men, or men who get stalked by women, but my ministry is mostly for women, so forgive me if I am, you know, gender biased or whatever. A lot of women who get stalked in this way end up dead, even when they've got restraining orders, even when they have got stories upon stories, even when they've moved state, when they've moved province, when they've moved city, when they have changed numbers and email addresses. They end up dead. These women end up dead a lot of times, or are basically just living the rest of their lives on the run. Or these women also end up in and of themselves having blood on their hands, even though they don't want to kill a man. They kill. They end up killing, right? And that's the trauma that you can never really forget, even though you were doing it in self-defense and you would win a case in court. You would be, one who was operating in self-defense, and so you would walk, but you still have to remember that you put a gun in a man's heart and he died, he passed away. That is a statistic that not many people on the earth have, and that most people on the earth just frankly don't want to ever have. So these women either end up, like I said, having killed a man, or they end up dead themselves. And if these people don't get neutralized, if stalkers, a lot of them, if they don't get neutralized by some drastic action, they become the bane of the existence of the stalkee. A small percentage of them move on, and also a small percentage of them get evaded by the women successfully to a point where they can no longer be found. But the vast majority of stalkers stay in that state until they either go to prison for committing some other crime, or they get killed, or they kill the women. It just doesn't. Most stalking cases don't end well. That's what I'm getting at. For the woman, for the person in question that is the victim, most of them, it just does not end well. And in this case, this woman was blessed because she did not have to be the one to pull the trigger. She was basically rescued finally after 4 years of being stalked like this. This man, the thing that drove him was the fact that initially this woman accommodated him and he fell in love with her. And then she was like, no, I'm not doing this. And instead of going to see a shrink, drink a whole bottle of Jack Daniels, whatever he needs to do to freaking cope, he decided that he's going to make a woman's life a living nightmare. When you stalk a person, there is a psychosis and a deep one in you, such that no one can negotiate with you, no one can tell you reason or ration, because to the stalker, it is absolutely fathomable or feasible that this woman that he is stalking will come around. They genuinely believe it. They have got a psychosis. It is a mental illness. And the kind that needs to put a person in a stray suit in some psychiatric hospital, but one that you can't successfully, I guess, get that kind of diagnosis over, because in other respects in their life, they're so normal. There's nothing of them that really truly appears crazy. And so nobody really knows that these people are involved in such a dark thing, and the only ones who feel the abuse, the torment, are their victims. So when a person is that crazy, when they have got that level of irrationality, their sense of reality is so warped that they thoroughly believe there is hope. And you know that you want nothing to do with the situation. As a woman, you're literally on your own. You gotta find a way out of this by yourself. Oh, guys, this is such a tough topic, and I'm pressed to pee now. But I'm about to seal part 1. We're going to get into part 2. The mental illness inside the stalker is such that you can't reason with them. You cannot tell them off enough times, cuss them out enough times. You cannot even marry someone else and have this person get off your back. Nothing works because they have got a mental illness. And one, too, that you cannot successfully get authorities to remove him out of society having identified, because that's a whole process. Only way out for victims tends to be the extinction of the stalker, either by death or imprisonment, or the woman herself being extinct because she died, or she got imprisoned, or she, completely disappeared from society to a point where he now was unsuccessful to locate her with his diabolical means. I don't know what enters men into that mode. I know women do it too, but like I said, I will have a gender bias because I'm speaking about my own case here and cases of women across the world. Plus, I have got a ministry that because I'm a woman, I am not allowed to teach men or have authority over them. So my ministry does indeed have a gender bias because I can only address women, not men. So if men are watching me, you can reverse this if you want to apply to men. But I am calling out a pandemic against women currently by men who have given themselves a mental illness, a psychosis, especially using sorcery in particular. There is no reason or rational thought happening in the mind of a man wired to think a particular way because he has got illusions and delusions discombobulating him daily that give him a hope that does not exist. And it will be this hope that lingers at your peril that will end the quality of your life as a woman in the absence of intervention. And this entire series is dedicated to basically helping women survive stalkers, because there is only one successful policeman, successful government official, successful figure of authority that will move a stalker out the way before he can waste 4 years of your life. His name is Jesus, and he has shown me that my stalker that's been lingering about my life for a year now is gonna die. And I'm gonna explain that to you now as to how the Lord showed me that that's what's going on. And also I'm going to explain to you other visions and dreams that God gave me, describing how this man is going to die and why it is that he will have been the one to basically bring the mortality to himself. Let me go to the bathroom, relieve myself, come back, and go to part 2, where we are going to talk further about this. And I hope that by the time we're done, I will have helped women get saved, because things have gotten dire, things have gotten super crazy on the earth, such that men have now not only just naturally walked into a craziness because they met a beautiful woman that ended up slipping out of their hands, but now they also are involved in witchcraft. It's like insult to injury. It's like that Asian dude that was stalking that American woman on steroids, because over and above just being kind of with a loose screw, you then decide to also practice witchcraft. It magnifies it, makes it worse, makes the irrationality worse, to a point where there is likely no recovery. I will also tell a story in the coming part of a dude in the US that is currently a Christian, but wasn't always one. And the Lord rescued him from himself when he was a stalker of a woman. So basically, him being a stalker got rescued from death by God when it became clear that if he does not stop doing what he was doing to this one other woman, that his life was about to end. And he repented. We're going to get into that perhaps in part 2. Next part.